Hi guys, it's Mr. Landers here, and there's a video out called Project Nightfalls. It's about the dangers of devices to our children in modern times, and it's a it's an eye-opening video. I would just seriously recommend, if you can pick it up on your social media platform, Facebook, go into it and have a look at it if you're concerned about your children screen times. I want to talk from experience of, I went to Helsinki in 2018, 2019, and I did a week's training there about addictions. So basically we had people coming from all over Europe, some parts of America even, and they would be working in social services or they'd be working in their own centres. We even got someone who worked for the New York Police Department come in, and they would give speeches about what they're finding, secondary issues of people with addictions. And one particular girl got up and she worked in a centre of addictions in Portugal, Lisbon, and nothing new there until she got into the weeds with what addictions she was talking about. And this particular addiction she was talking about was device addictions. And the data in Portugal was out there 5-6 years ago about the dangers that these devices were having on our kids, psychologically, physiologically. You know, it was changing actually the structuring of their brains, the circuitry wiring. And the video Project Nightfalls picks up on a point that children that were born from 2010, 2012 have never experienced life without a device. Now, this girl, she told us a real in-depth story about a family come to her centre. This is the girl who was talking about a centre in Portugal. And she mentioned that the mother come in and was crying her eyes out, and she was pleading, and she said, "You have to help us." And she said basically what had happened is the son, and she held her hands up and said, "Look, we allowed it 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and then it just become unmanageable." And she said they asked him to stop the Xbox and he wouldn't listen. He was just rude. His schoolwork had suffered. His dinner time conversation had dried up. And literally the father just unplugged. They just unplugged the Xbox. And that's where the descent into hell started, where him being unplugged gave him the right, in his mind, to go down into the kitchen and get a bread knife and go to attack his mum with a bread knife because she had unplugged him. And this mum was relaying this story to this lovely girl, very, very cool girl, had a very insightful way of almost projecting to where we are today. And this video that, once again, thanks to my friend who put it out there, highlights all the dangers. Now, there's a great book by a doctor called Anne Lemke who talks about the dopamine nations, meaning what addictions do to it's a breakthrough. We have dopamine receptors, which imagine it's a seesaw. So it goes up when we have pleasure, it goes down when we have a hangover. And what it wants to do is maintain equilibriums like homeostasis. So the higher we keep pushing the pleasure receptor up, the more it needs to stay up, because once it's had its pleasure, it wants to come back down and obviously just sit. It's balance, it's alignment, it's what we all talk about, it's the yin and yang, it's but what's happening, and she discovered this, Anne Lemke, she's one of the world's leading experts at it. She works, I believe, in Stanford in America, that you can actually burn it out with too much pleasure. So they've even done some data with where base jumpers and extreme sporters, they find it more difficult than the average Joe to get pleasure hits again, because they've burnt out the dopamine receptor because how extreme it's been hit. So You know, think about it, a battery being burnt out, a car being revved, anything like that what goes up must come down. In this video, this Project Nightfalls, you can actually see the children responding in a way that is unnatural for children to respond. Now, we know children have tantrums, we know children can be spoiled when they don't get their own way, but these are children whose dopamine parts of their brain are being exhausted. There's some of them are even watching two screens, and they can't. What you're seeing in their reaction and their violence and their not listening is just they can't handle the drop off. Their brain is being taught to have an up and no down. There's no middle ground, because we haven't allowed the natural development of the brain to happen. Now, it's hard to just go into a child's room and straight away just go in, I'm taking that away. And here's why: because the brain needs something to replace it to complete the loop. So if you are taking something away, even on a personal level, you need your brain to be able to replace it with something. So think of, you have to wean your child off of these devices. You have to then replace an interaction that would be completely different and completely enabling the child to get pleasure from different ways. So I would encourage sleepovers with kids if it's possible, with their friends, but no devices or limited device times. Sports, I would days out with the kids. You know, it's on us as parents to change their world as well, and not to slip into this, oh, it's easier now just to babysit them. It's also about, when they're at that age, explaining the possible damage that can be done with these devices. Read to them, ask them to read to you, cook together, write together, you know. Go to, it sounds crazy about screen, but go to a cinema together, watch a film, but talk about the film after. But this addiction that's exploded onto us has been a volcano waiting to erupt, because we know that the people that create and make and know how to program these algorithms, they are after our kids. They are after our kids. And this is the tip of the iceberg. Now, this girl mentioned it 5-6 years ago. It's something we should be highly aware of. You do not give your children the keys, as I mentioned in the last video, to the drinks cabinet and say, I'll just be down the hallway, fill your boots. That's what we're doing, but we're now starting to see this is now physically and mentally damaging our children, and all because we as parents are addicted as well to our devices. And that's why I said, please swap your phone usage every time you pick up your phone, and imagine that's a glass of wine, and see how many times you are at it a day, and see if you're addicted. But the only one saving grace we've got is we have a recourse. We have a recall of what life was like without them, and we can still tune into that. In 10 years' time, if we allow our children to continue, they will never know how to unravel from it. That I can assure you. Sorry for the longevity of this video, but my name is Mr. Landers, Sheraton Light, and I'm just putting this video out to raise awareness. Thank you very much.